Hey RATBAGGERS, it's Jade today with a guide to all unique axes, two-handed ones at least, and hammers to give you absolutely massive stun or maybe high crit bleed. Let's go through everything you need to know. And there's quite a lot of them compared to some things like daggers, wands. You actually get 6 different two-handed big weapons. So let's go and find them all. Everyone and their mum has now done a guide on 7 strivings, as it's one of the earliest big powerful two-handed weapons that you can pick up in the game. You'll find it obviously in Dawnshore, and you need to defeat an ogre to get it, or be really super stealthy. So you can't miss this place, especially if you go to the bounty board in Paradise, as you'll pick it up. It is a bounty to kill the ogre here in the Falls. If you creep round to the right hand side though, you can climb some of these rock formations and actually, like I said, go and pick up this club without actually having to kill the ogre if you really don't want to. You come to an outcrop just above, and if you got Shadow in Doubt or Beyond, you know, the one that makes you go invisible, then you can creep down and just grab it from the dead Zerp that's there on the floor next to it. Otherwise, you will have to take on Rauga, and of course he's pretty formidable like most ogres, with obviously close-up melee attacks and ground pounds. So keep your distance, keep peppering away, and maybe use any kind of bleed damage, as that's pretty effective on him. Fire's not too bad also, and just watch out for that big area effect, it's quite large. There might be a couple of Zurips as well, so you might need to take care of them. Once he's defeated, as said, in the corner, you should find the body of a Zurip with 7 strivings. It's really good because once you kill an enemy, you get 15% movement speed for 10 seconds. You also get 5% critical hit chance with every blow. Go ahead and enchant it, and that increases to 30% move speed for 10 seconds. Or you can go ahead and use the successful parry option, giving you 20% of your maximum health back. Next up, one of the prettiest weapons in the game, the Emerald Splitter. Really obviously powerful two-handed axe. Great also for dealing high poison accumulation to an enemy with your power strikes, so good for obviously poison builds. And you'll also do 20% damage against primordials, which are the demogons and sporlings. And for this particular weapon, that works out about 70 extra damage points. Obviously still really good for other creatures too. Enchanting it gives you the option to do even more higher poison accumulation but to nearby enemies, or a full combo attack dealing high stun and poison accumulation. So where is it? Slightly to the northeast or east of the map at the Rolling Crags. You'll come across a whole bunch of Zurips, as there's an encampment at a Pargram way station alongside some of the Sporlings too. It's another one that technically you could try not actually engaging with the enemies, as the way into the building or ruins does require a bit of parkour, and you could more or less try and avoid it. Otherwise, take them out, as I'm sure there's plenty of other goodies for you to go and get. But once you go through this little mining area, turn right and you'll see ledges. Keep following and jumping up, and you can see the ruins directly to our left. We're going to be going into them, so jump on top here, and then obviously jump across, and then one more big leap inside. Once you've looted this skeleton, of course. And then sitting in the chest is going to be the Emerald Splitter. And just a little FYI, climb on top of the furniture and the fireplace to make your escape. Another high stun dealing club or hammer now with just pestle. Full combo attack gives you 20% attack speed and 10% attack damage for 12 seconds. And you can go ahead and also get 15% stun damage extra. This makes it one of the best stun weapons in the game, especially when you go ahead and think about the enchantments. A full combo attack will give you an increased 30% attack speed and 15 attack damage for 15 seconds, or you can choose the other option. Power attacks will give you an additional 15% critical hit chance for 10 seconds. So get yourself some big old hefty armor, or definitely plenty of stuff that's going to give you a med boost, and you can just wail on enemies. So where is it? At the Deadfall Highlands, you're looking for the Sulphur Mine. This is to the north in Shatterscarp. There's a whole bunch of quests that direct you to this place anyway, and you obviously find a guard standing outside the entrance to it. And it's a fairly big old dungeon to go and explore, filled with lots of spiders, maybe some of the shadows, dream thralls, and even a mini boss fight on your escape out of this place. Also well worth bringing Yatsli, as there's a few of the special blocks that she can only open the barrier around them. After you've cleared out the first part of the dungeon, you'll come across these rooms and small area here. Go through this opening and it will lead to obviously some more ruins and some more spiders. There's plenty of other loot, so make sure you go and climb every nook and cranny, but eventually you'll come to obviously where you just saw the walkway. There's plenty of explosive barrels, so maybe try and aim for them with maybe not potato aim like I'm trying with my actual ones, and then bring some fire or grenades with you to get through obviously the web. You'll come up to where there's going to be a bridge that you cross to get to the next section, but before you do, go ahead and notice this little secret door. And simply just got to follow the power conduits to a secret little switch. Well, it's not that secret, it's right there on the wall, but easy to miss, and then that should open up the secret doorway. And there on the altar or table is just pestle. We'll explain detail location a bit more though, because the actual sulfur mines base camp is actually something that you have to go kind of a long way round when exploring Shatterscarp. You'll notice maybe an elevator that you couldn't activate from the ground as soon as you entered into Shatterscarp. Well, yeah, that's because you've got to go through the Deadfall Highlands before then activating the elevator, so you can go up and down if you want. So yeah, technically it's more to the west, but you do have to go pretty far northwest to activate and get to this area. If you do pick up the Captain Badges quest, I think in Thirdborn, it directs you here as well anyway. Or pretty much close enough. So there's actually two that you can find in Galawain's Tusk. As soon as you set foot in Galawain's Tusk, one of the first missions or quests is to head to the southeast part of the map. As you're going along the south coast, you'll come across this cave with a ogre keeping a dwarf captive. Two ways to solve this quest. You either help the ogre with a cure for his infliction. Eventually doing so, gathering all the herbs that he needs and stuff, will reward you with a trinket called Stoneheart, which summons a ruinous blight to fight alongside you. Or just straight up go ahead and kill him and you'll get Limb-Taker, a powerful two-handed axe. He's no joke though, legendary status at tier 2 and clearly miles above me at this point of recording. In fact, I'd gone ahead and gave him the cure and didn't bother killing him. It was only afterwards I realised I actually had a different weapon, so I reloaded a save to show for this video. Power attacks will deal moderate bleed damage, and then you've got any hit dealing 10% bonus bleed damage. Here it is on the map, like I said, just to the southeast of the first encampment that you start off with Galawain's Tusks. I'm not a huge fan of bleed as a perk. Yes, it can be super effective for pretty much all creatures, bar things like stone creatures like the calamities. And of course, not very effective against skeletons, in fact they're immune from it. But yeah, it's still relatively slow to build up and it doesn't necessarily take enough damage away. I still prefer things that do elemental damage instead. But you never know, you may optimize a build that really takes advantage of this, so good luck with it. Enchanting it, power attacks will deal high bleed accumulation even more. Or maybe a better option, killing an enemy gives you a 50% plus attack speed for 8 seconds. I will be honest though, I didn't really feel like I was noticing much of an increase with it. It's pretty mild in terms of it, but I guess that's because it's usually so slow to use. Next up, we're looking for a place called Warden's Rest. It's on the path to Solus Keep from the obviously south, going past the Sado Steps, etc. in Galawain's Tusk, inside the Salt Farm Flats. There'll be a dead body outside one of the first buildings and a letter to Ambassador Hilgard, with the long roundabout way of completing this quest to get this next weapon by effectively taking the letter and reading it to him all the way back in Dawnshaw, yep. Then going ahead and talking to Costa at the Solar Keep. Again, that's part of the main quest line, and you have to bring Marius to gain access the first time. And then if you help Costa, basically agree with him, he'll tell you the location of the Steel Garrote inside Mount Forger, which is where you're going to end up going for a big chunk of the story. However, there is a glitchy way to go ahead and get what is here, Forge's friend, a powerful two-handed hammer. What you're meant to do is get a special passcode from Costas that allows you to go into this secret doorway. Effectively a little bit of a Easter egg nod to Lord of the Rings, and you should be able to open up this secret door. But there's reports of the actual letter not being able to be picked up and not having any recognition when you go and talk to either the ambassador or to Costas himself, even when you've helped him. So instead we go to the main entrance to Mount Forger, which you again have to go as part of the story. The very first cave opening that you come across, you'll notice obviously this little area here with a couple stalagmites. If you spend a good amount of time trying to hop and jump really facing this stalagmite like this, you'll sometimes do like a bit of a weird slide glitch, and this is a way that I can get up to that top part. It's reliably effective, like it won't be something that takes you forever, I promise, hence why I'm not going to cut or edit anything out of this. I'm showing you all my failed attempts. You can see I was kind of flown in the air there, but I was facing the wrong direction. So keep persisting on this particular stalagmite and eventually you will actually be able to get up. Like I said, the other way, you're meant to use that passcode and it opens up a secret area that we're going to explore now. But take advantage of this for now, unless they go ahead and patch it. One way leads to the exit, the other way leads to these gates, and this is actually what you can see from the other entrance, but you can't access because the door is barred when you're exploring this dungeon, but Forge's friend is right here. And it's effectively a fire hammer. Power attacks will deal high fire accumulation, or special attacks will summon a great fire blight. If you enchant it, that ability to set enemies on fire will actually go to other enemies nearby, or instead you can actually upgrade it with the Steal Yourself enchantment, which gives you 25% move speed and 30% dodge distance for 10 seconds after a successful parry. You can of course go and explore the rest of this dungeon. As I said, I'm not spoiling anything from the story, but I will say that it's very tied to Lodwyn, so make sure you're really ready for this, as there's a whole bunch of other hard enemies in this place too, and lots of other goodies. Otherwise you can just head out the exit and come back a bit later when you've leveled up, if you've kind of made a beeline for this place because you like the idea of having a flaming hammer. It does require a bit of effort to get to Mount Fjordur though. You will have to go pretty much directly west from Solace Keep, going across various lava fields and getting through a whole ton of enemies before you make it to the dungeon entrance. And being really Captain Obvious here, but you don't actually have to go and pick up the letter, go back to the ambassador or talk to Costa. You could just go straight to that cave, but I'm not 100% sure whether or not the story will allow you to enter before then. I reckon it probably will. And then you can still glitch up, get the actual weapon, and then just come back later when you really want to, or go through the other story, so you don't have to side with Costa either. As that's a pretty big decision depending on what you do, but I won't spoil it. And lastly, we're in the garden, the final and fifth zone. This is a large place and it's quite linear in its way, like it's basically just one long extended dungeon rather than a full fleshed out world. But you need to get to a place called the Broken Aqueduct. There's a whole bunch of skeletons and a tough bear to fight, and in one corner you'll find this statue here. You'll notice that you can go ahead and climb some of these rocks, and effectively on top of it is the last two-handed special hammer that we're looking at today as part of all these weapons. Inevitability gives you damaging an enemy 3% extra damage reduction for 8 seconds, plus 20% power attack damage to enemies with low health. So you'll be able to take more hits, but also go ahead and finish off enemies a lot quicker. If you enchant it, that increases to 5% damage reduction from enemies and an extra 10% movement speed for 8 seconds, or you can choose the other option. Killing an enemy shows nearby enemies and gives them minus 10% damage for 10 seconds. That is probably one of the worst perks I've seen in the game. Really not sure why it's there, because generally you can see all the enemies. It's not a stealth game or anything. But for sure, for the last encounters, which is pretty much the only place you can use these weapons in the garden, yeah, why not? If you've got a lot of enemies around you, it might be good. All in all, 7 strivings. If you pick it up early game and upgrade it, you won't go far wrong with it. It can honestly hold you in good stead all the way through. I do love the look of Emerald Splitter, but I do feel like Poison's another one of them that I just don't, or I'm not a big fan of. And certainly some of the endgame ones like Inevitability just feel a bit too late and a bit too wasted. So pretty much break it down so you can really enhance any of your other weapons maybe. I actually think just Pestle is probably the best two-handed weapon out of the lot, but that's just personal preference. You guys let me know what you've been using. Are you going to be searching out some of these? And go and check out the rest of my weapon guides in AVOWED, and maybe some of the arm ones too. And until next time, Ratbags, I'll catch you later.